In at number 10, Geena Davis. Geena Davis has received numerous accolades for her acting work in both film and television, and is noted for her portrayals of strong and authentic female characters, as well as her involvement in advocacy for women in the industry. When she won her first Oscar in 1988 for The Accidental Tourist, Geena became a massive star in Hollywood. She went on to do back-to-back roles in hits like Beetlejuice and Thelma and Louise. When the early 2000s rolled around though, Geena decided to step away from acting because the roles she was getting lacked complexity and the projects just weren't that interesting. Instead, she decided to start the Geena Davis Institute on Gender and Media in 2004 to increase the presence of female representation in film and television. She did make a comeback though when she joined a documentary called This Changes Everything, as well as the Netflix female wrestling comedy called Glow. In at number 9, Meg Ryan. Meg Ryan began her acting career in 1981 with minor roles before she joined the cast of the CBS soap opera called As the World Turns the following year. After that, she began to appear in a variety of supporting roles throughout the 1980s in big box office films such as Top Gun and When Harry Met Sally. By 1989, Meg Ryan had gained widespread attention for receiving her first Golden Globe nomination, which just really established her as an internationally known actor. When it came to romantic comedy flicks, everyone wanted to cast Meg. She was by far one of the most successful actresses in the 1990s and early 2000s because of this. That being said, Meg Ryan suddenly disappeared from Hollywood after a single role as a school teacher in a racy R-rated film ended her career. Meg thinks that because people had pigeonholed her as this comedic and lighthearted actress, they were almost appalled watching her act in anything that wasn't that good girl archetype. She was shocked at the vicious reactions that she received for being naked in one of the scenes, and thus being in the public eye suddenly made her feel isolated. Ryan was 41 at the time of the film's release, and the nudity just wasn't that big of a deal to her, but nonetheless, she disappeared from Hollywood. In at number 8, Rick Moranis. Back in 1980, Rick Moranis was just starting out in his career. He landed a role in the Canadian comedy series called SCTV, working alongside comedy legends like Harold Ramis, Catherine O'Hara, Eugene Levy, and John Candy, many of whom Rick would go on to work with in the future. The reason for Rick disappearing from Hollywood is actually quite sad. After his wife Anne passed away from breast cancer in 1997, he immediately had to shift his focus on raising their 2 children. In all of these interviews that he did much later, Rick mainly stayed very nonchalant about his choice to leave Hollywood to become a stay-at-home dad. During an interview with The Hollywood Reporter in 2015, he said, "I was working with really interesting people, wonderful people. I went from that to being at home with a couple of little kids, which is a very different lifestyle, but it was important to me. I have absolutely no regrets whatsoever. My life is wonderful." Although he did sort of leave Hollywood, the comedian hasn't stopped working. He's almost exclusively done voiceover work from 1997 to 2006. In at number 7, Mike Myers. To me, Mike Myers will always be my comedy idol. I mean, his performances in Shrek, Wayne's World, and Austin Powers were so funny and over the top that I still laugh at them in 2020. Myers was also extremely popular as well during his time with Saturday Night Live, for which a sketch of his was even transformed into the movie Wayne's World. His troubles with Hollywood though started way back in the year 2000 when he signed on to another film also inspired by an SNL skit called Sprockets. Yes, that was the name. Halfway through production, the comedian left citing issues with the script. Him bailing on this production though resulted in 2 lawsuits from Universal Studios, one of which was for $30 million. He then went on to do that terrible live action version of Cat in the Hat, which absolutely tanked in the box office. The real reason he disappeared from Hollywood though was to put more focus on being a husband and a father. In at number 6, his comedy duo buddy, Dana Carvey. Best known for his work as a cast member on SNL as well, and of course Garth from Wayne's World. Dana is an actor, stand-up comedian, and an excellent impressionist. Dana Carvey has audiences cracking up at his George Bush impression and his church lady character during 7 seasons of Saturday Night Live, and created unforgettable catchphrases with Mike Myers in 2 Wayne's World movies. But at the peak of his career in the late 1990s, Carvey stepped away to raise his 2 sons Dex and Thomas with his wife Paula since 1983. While speaking with People magazine, Carvey spoke about his decision to leave Hollywood. In the interview, he said, "I have friends who get stressed about fading or not being as hot. I never quite engaged that. I have a lot of drive to try to be the best I can be, have people be blown away by what I do and repeating it. But the other side of me is fine wherever I am." He also was experiencing a lot of health complications during the late 90s, which caused him to undergo 4 angioplasties in less than a year, followed up with a double bypass surgery. However, his health is tip-top magoo now, and his focus seems to be shifting back to stand-up comedy. Actually, he put out a great stand-up comedy hour on Netflix. Check that out. In at number 5, Jack Gleeson. Jack Gleeson is an Irish actor that received critical acclaim for playing the role of Joffrey Baratheon in the HBO series Game of Thrones. Jack began acting at the age of 8 in the Independent Theater Workshop, and when asked why he stopped acting at the height of his career, really, Gleeson told Entertainment Weekly that he just wasn't enjoying it anymore. In the interview, he said, "The answer isn't interesting or long-winded. I've been acting since age 8. I just stopped enjoying it as much as I used to, and now there's the prospect of doing it for a living, whereas up until now it was always something I did for recreation with my friends or in the summer for some fun. I enjoyed it. When you make a living from something, it changes your relationship with it. It's not like I hate it, it's just not what what I want to do. He will be sorely missed. Not Joffrey though, I hated that character. In at number 4, Sean Connery. Sean Connery without a doubt will always be James Bond to me, thanks to a run as the character from 1962 to 1983 that saw him starring in 7 films as a secret agent 007. By 1999, People magazine had declared him as the sexiest man of the century, and then to cap it all off, he was knighted in 2000. That's a great decade for him. One of his last big box office films that he did though was The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen in 2003. However, the film was not very well received and was mostly a commercial failure. I still loved it. Following this film, he kept fairly quiet about his future plans until revealing in 2006 that he had retired from acting. After accepting a Lifetime Achievement Award at the American Film Institute, Connery told the crowd, "I have retired for good. It's been a bit rough since Christmas, but I'm perfectly okay and I feel well. In fact, I'm working on a history book." History written by Sean Connery. I'd read that. In at number 3, Angus Jones. Angus Jones is perhaps best known for playing Jake Harper in the CBS sitcom 2.5 Men, for which he won 2 Young Artist Awards and a TV Land Award. The show was the most popular sitcom in the US with an average audience of around 15 million people. By 2010 though, he was the highest paid child star in television at just 17 years old. In 2012, Jones had turned 18 and really started to feel awkward with the new adult storylines that he was doing for the show. As a result of growing up, the writers could no longer give him these childish lines and innocent mannerisms that Jake was so well known for. By November of 2012, Angus said that he had been baptized and no longer wanted to appear on the show anymore. He even went as far as saying that the show is filth and thus conflicted with his newfound religious views. In at number 2, Carly Schroeder. Not too many people would probably even recognize Carly today, but way back she was best known for her recurring role on the Disney Channel series Lizzie McGuire. Originally booking it as a one-time appearance, she ended up shooting 12 episodes of the show and also appeared in the Lizzie McGuire movie in 2003 in the same role. Unlike most people though, Carly took a completely different route from retiring from acting. In February of 2019, Schroeder announced that she would be joining the United States Army. She then attended the Officer Candidate School and planned on working as an officer in the Military Intelligence Corps. She also received her commission as a second lieutenant on September 20th, 2019. Carly also explained during an interview with Business Insider that she didn't really talk about her time as an actress so that she could blend in and have people not treat her differently. Probably a good move. Last but certainly not least, on our number 1 spot, Amanda Bynes. Amanda Bynes rose to prominence in Hollywood as a child star in the late 1990s and early 2000s on Nickelodeon through the sketch comedy series called All That, which then led to her own spin-off series titled The Amanda Show. From there, her career seemed to be on the right path according to Hollywood rules. She was now starring in some bigger feature films, but because her life had been in the spotlight for so long, her downfalls were also highly publicized. She began to struggle with substance abuse and her legal issues, resulting in a hiatus from acting in 2010. She attempted to make a comeback in 2018, but nothing really happened, and thus she began to disappear from Hollywood. Probably for the best.
Coming in at 10, Ozzy Osbourne. In 2016, The Sun posted an article alleging that Black Sabbath rocker Ozzy Osbourne was missing after claims surfaced that his marriage to wife Sharon Osbourne was ending over a rumored infidelity. However, the missing persons case didn't last long, 3 hours to be exact, with reports quickly surfacing that the singer was well and fine in Los Angeles. His wife Sharon addressed their marriage breakdown during an episode of The Talk, stating, "I'm 63 years of age and I can't keep living like this." However, stranger still, the couple were spotted just days later together looking rather chummy, sparking rumors that Ozzy's disappearance and their supposed split was just a publicity stunt. Strange. Coming in at 9, DB Cooper. We all know of DB Cooper, and if you don't, well, I'm here to fill you in. On Thanksgiving Eve 1971, DB Cooper purchased a ticket under the alias Dan Cooper and proceeded to hijack Flight 305, which was bound for Seattle. Shortly after takeoff, Cooper told the flight attendant that he had explosives in his possession, demanding $200,000 and 4 parachutes, otherwise he would detonate. Authorities paid the ransom and gave Cooper the parachutes, and after refueling, he was headed to Mexico City. However, after only 30 minutes into the flight, he jumped from the plane, not far from Mount St. Helens in Washington State. Cooper was never found, but on top of that, his real identity still remains a mystery. In July 2016, a documentary was aired on the History Channel about DB, where they named Robert Rackstraw as the man behind the mask. However, the FBI didn't pursue him, so who DB Cooper is still remains a mystery to this day. Coming in at 8, Randy Quaid. Now this one is just bizarre. Randy Quaid was an Academy Award nominated actor who fled with his wife to Canada in 2010 in an attempt to seek asylum from a group they referred to as Hollywood Star Whackers, who were allegedly out to kill him. Now their escape to Canada resulted in a lot of illegal activities by the couple, which included using fake credit cards to pay for hotels, as well as squatting in one of their former homes. According to CNN, the couple were eventually granted permission to stay in Canada in 2011, with his wife managing to get citizenship because because her father was born in the country. Randy's request, however, was denied in 2013. In October of 2015, Randy was detained by Canadian immigration officials and was set to be deported back to the US later that month. Crazier still, he and his wife were arrested while trying to sneak back into the States through Vermont. Bizarre. Coming in at 7, Andrew Koenig. Back in the day, Andrew Koenig was the star of the popular show Growing Pains. However, on February 14, 2010, his parents reported him missing after he failed to board a flight from Vancouver to Los Angeles. His body was eventually discovered by friends in a Vancouver park, with Koenig having reportedly committed suicide. According to reports, the actor had stopped taking his depression medication and was in a lot of pain leading up to his death. Following the tragedy, Koenig's parents spoke openly to the media about suicide, stating, "Before you make that final decision, check it out again and talk to someone. There are people out there who really care. Remember, if you or someone you know is having suicidal thoughts, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline." We'll link it below. Coming in at 6, Richard Stanley. Richard Stanley, for those who don't know, was hired as the director of the 1996 film The Island of Dr. Moreau. However, he was fired after just 3 days of filming, with strange stories and events quickly surfacing from the film's set. The Telegraph reported that Stanley was escorted onto a flight from the remote location in Australia, with him set to land in Los Angeles. However, when the flight landed, he wasn't on board. More interesting still, a month later some of the extras from the film discovered him living rough in the jungle, with the report stating that he fled from the airport and was living on yams and coconuts at a fruit plantation. But guys, it gets even weirder. He then teamed up with the extras in order to get back onto set, and he did this by dressing up in a dog hybrid costume. Yeah, that happened. Coming in at 5, Patrick McDermott. The disappearance of Patrick McDermott captivated the media back in 2005 when he went missing during a fishing trip. The once boyfriend of Olivia Newton-John was rumoured to have disappeared in order to escape debt and money he owed in unpaid child support, with him reportedly spotted numerous times through the years. One specific occasion was in 2006 when owners of a cafe told a private investigator that McDermott visited their place of business with a mystery blonde. Later in March 2016, it was alleged that McDermott was alive and well and that he was living in a remote village in Mexico with his German girlfriend. However, none of this has been confirmed. Newton-John seemed to get over it though when she married John Easterling in 2008. Good for her. Why wait around? Coming in at 4, Jimmy Hoffa. Jimmy Hoffa was a union official presiding for over 10 years. He was, of course, corrupt and involved in a lot of organised crime, which resulted in him going to prison in 1967 while still retaining his presidency over the Teamsters. He eventually resigned his post in 1971 in order to gain release from prison as well as a pardon from then President Nixon. Now, Hoffa was last seen outside a Detroit restaurant where it was rumoured he was meeting 2 organised crime bosses. Folks don't learn, do they? Following his disappearance, he was declared dead in 1982, but the circumstances have always remained suspicious. It has, however, been established that he was killed by mobsters the day he vanished, even though his body was never found. One story states that he was buried in a shallow grave on a vacant lot 20 miles from where he was last seen. However, this was never proven. Coming in at number 3, Nick Stahl. In the early 2000s, Nick Stahl was a big name actor, starring in films like In the Bedroom alongside Marissa Tomei. Now in May 2012, it was reported that Stahl was missing amid rumours that he had been frequenting Skid Row in the downtown area of Los Angeles. Word very quickly got out, spreading across the media instantly. Not long after, Stahl emailed a handful of his friends, claiming he was planning to go to rehab, with TMZ confirming that he did indeed turn up at a rehabilitation centre, because they seem to know everything. However, not long after, Stahl went missing again after checking out of rehab, against his doctor's wishes. His wife Rose told tabloids she would not actively search for her husband again, stating, "He knows exactly where home is. It's the loving thing to do for him, myself and our daughter." Thankfully, Nick reappeared and reconciled with his family, with the reports claiming he was now in a good place. However, they were wrong because things took a turn for the worse in 2013. In June of that year, the star was placed on a 5150 psychiatric hold for unknown reasons, and that very same month he was arrested when cops found him and 3 others using meth in a motel. Coming in at 2, Dorothy Arnold. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this case, Dorothy Arnold was a Manhattan heiress and socialite who disappeared at the age of 25 in December 1910 in New York City. Now, on the morning of December 12th, Arnold told her mother that she was going shopping for a dress for her sister's upcoming party. Her mother suggested she go with her, but Arnold declined, saying she would call if she found something nice. It's reported reported that after doing some shopping she stopped to chat with a friend before excusing herself, saying she had to meet her mother for lunch shortly before 2 p.m. Now, this was the last time anyone saw or heard from Arnold. The family of course became worried when she never returned home, but not wanting media attention chose not to call the police until weeks after her initial disappearance. They held a press conference offering a reward for any information leading to her discovery, however no one came forward. After 75 days of investigation, the search was called off, with the prevailing rumour being that Arnold died due to a botched abortion. More interesting still, in 1916 a clinic was raided by the police and a doctor testified that Arnold did indeed die there. However, her father adamantly denies these rumours. After the death of both of her parents, it was rumoured that Dorothy Arnold actually committed suicide due to her failed writing career, but nothing has ever been proven. And finally, coming in at number 1, Amelia Earhart. Perhaps the most famous missing person in history, Amelia Earhart. She became famous as both a pilot and a passenger, and her exploits in the sky made her well known around the world. Aside from aviation, she was also a teacher, author, fashion designer, a magazine editor, and a cigarette spokesman. In 1937, Earhart and her navigator Fred Noonan embarked on a trip around the world. However, on July 2nd, Earhart sent out a radio message asking for help, with the pair dangerously low on fuel while flying over the Pacific Ocean. The US Coast Guard sent help, but rescuers were unable to locate the plane. Earhart and Noonan were never found, with them being declared dead in 1939 after an extensive search funded by Earhart's husband. Now, of course, the missing persons case garnered a lot of attention, with many putting forth their own theories about what might have happened. The most common belief is that the plane ran out of fuel and crashed into the Pacific Ocean, subsequently sinking. In 2012, researchers spent another $2.2 million trying to prove that Earhart had crashed on an island instead of sinking to the bottom of the ocean. However, this was never proven. Coming in at 10, Sinead O'Connor. It's common knowledge that Irish singer Sinead O'Connor has faced a lot of trouble in her life. However, in 2016 it all came to a head when she was reported missing. Not once, but twice. The first disappearance occurred in May of 2016 after reports surfaced that O'Connor went for a bike ride in her Chicago suburb and never returned. The news instantly hit the media, and rumours stated that O'Connor was classified as missing suicidal by police. However, she was later found safe at a hotel before she was transferred to a local hospital. A month after the incident, police went and searched for O'Connor once again after Irish authorities called to say she had threatened to jump off a bridge in Chicago. However, a little while after these reports surfaced, O'Connor took to Facebook to deny the rumours that she was suicidal. I quote, "Oh, and by the way, it's bullshit that I jumped off a bridge. Some stupid up at Swords Garden Station decided she'd like to throw a bit of false and malicious gossip about is all. I'm far too happy for that." Coming in at 9, Richie Edwards. Richie Edwards was the rhythm guitarist and lyricist for Manic Street Preachers, a mid-90s British rock band whom The Guardian called a lightning rod of sorts for adolescent angst. What a title. Now, Edwards infamously wrote a lot of songs about depression. However, it was his publicity stunts that really triggered folks. On one particular occasion, Edwards was being interviewed by a journalist from NME, who implied that the band's posturing was insincere. So as a response, Edwards grabbed a razor blade and carved "for real" into his own arm. However, his behaviour took a turn for the worse when he was reported missing in February of 1995. The musician was due to fly to the US with a fellow band member. However, Edwards disappeared from his hotel room. His car was later found abandoned near the Severn Bridge, which connects England and Wales, and Edwards was legally declared dead in 2008, but his body has never been recovered. Coming in at number 8, Harold Holt. Back in the 60s, Harold Holt was known for being the 17th Prime Minister of Australia. However, just 2 years into his term, Holt went missing. In December of 1967, Holt went swimming at the deserted Cheviot Beach in Victoria. However, he never returned. The weather that day was terrible, and the Smithsonian recounts one person at the scene who claimed the surf was higher than they'd ever known it. Holt's body was never recovered. However, a 2005 investigation concluded he had drowned. However, it were the events that followed that made Holt's disappearance truly baffling. As you can imagine, a Prime Minister disappearing out of nowhere triggered a lot of conspiracy theories, resulting in Australian law at the time making an inquest into someone's death without a body illegal, even if that person was the leader of the country. What are they trying to hide? Coming in at 7, Oscar Zeta Acosta. Acosta was a legendary activist who relentlessly consumed pills, booze, and hallucinogens in such large quantities that even his friend Hunter S. Thompson couldn't keep up. That's saying something. He was a large man with an even larger appetite, and his buddy Thompson immortalized his friend in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which starred Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro. In May 1974, Acosta visited his ancestral home of Mexico and just straight up vanished. Hunter S. Thompson spent years on and off searching for his friend. However, it was later claimed that he was likely killed in a drug hit or a political assassination. Yet no body was ever found. After all these years, some people still hold out hope that Acosta didn't die. The Book of Latino Writers and Journalists references a theory that he may have had a nervous breakdown and decided to just stay in Mexico. I guess we'll never know though. Coming in at 6, Scott Hutchison. Scott Hutchison was a singer from Frightened Rabbit who used his music to detail his suicidal thoughts. An example being, in the track Floating in the Fourth, he sings, "And fully clothed I float away, down the Fourth into the sea. I think I'll save suicide for another day." Now, though his battle with depression was blatantly obvious and his fans were more than aware, it was still shocking and baffling when Hutchison sent out a series of cryptic tweets in May 2018. One read, "Be so good to everyone you love. It's not a given. I'm so annoyed that it's not. I didn't live by that standard and it kills me. Please hug your loved ones." In his second and final tweet, he wrote, "I'm away now. Thanks." The very next day, his fellow bandmates announced that Hutchison was missing, stating, "He may be in a very fragile state and may not be making the best decisions for himself right now." Hutchison was last seen leaving a hotel in Scotland, and on May 10, 2018 his body was found. The cause of death hasn't been released, but his family issued a statement in the wake of his passing, saying they were immensely proud of him for being so open with his struggles. I said this in the last video, but once again, if you or someone you know is having suicidal thoughts, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Coming in at 5, Richard Simmons. The fitness-crazed 80s star Richard Simmons baffled everyone back in 2014 when his public appearances and online presence came to an abrupt halt out of seemingly nowhere, with the star last seen in February of that same year. For 3 years, the fitness guru completely vanished. However, it wasn't until March 2017 when the police conducted a welfare check and issued a statement that we learned that Simmons was perfectly fine and very happy, apparently. The following month, however, Simmons was admitted to a hospital with severe indigestion, with the star releasing a statement on Facebook to address the circulating rumours about his disappearance and welfare. I quote, "Well, by now you know that I'm not missing, just a little under the weather. I'm sure I'll be feeling good and back home in a couple of days." Well, thank God for that. Coming in at 4, Kurt Cobain. Now, a lot of you may not be aware that the final days of Nirvana frontman Kurt Cobain's life were truly chaotic, even being described as a crisis in a heartbreaking piece by Rolling Stone. They detail how Cobain entered a Los Angeles-based rehab center in April 1994. However, on one particular day he reportedly told staff he was stepping out for a smoke. However, he never returned, with his former wife Courtney Love stating that he jumped over the fence of the facility. Cobain's mother Wendy filed a missing persons report on April 4th, informing the police that her son might be suicidal. It was later discovered that Cobain caught a flight from LA to Seattle, and police reported that he wandered around town with no clear agenda in his final days. Witnesses who spotted the singer described him as looking ill and wearing a thick jacket at a park, and sometime on or before April 5th he barricaded himself in a greenhouse built above his garage. The singer wrote a one-page suicide note, possibly used heroin, and took his own life with a shotgun at the age of 27. Coming in at 3, Jason Mewes. Jason Mewes, star of Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, disappeared for almost 2 years after failing to show up for a drug-related court appearance in 2002. He finally turned himself in and was sentenced to 6 months in rehab back in 2003. However, what resulted in him coming out of hiding was what caused the most speculation. According to Entertainment Weekly, Mewes woke up on Christmas morning from a heroin-induced sleep to find the couch he had passed out on engulfed in flames. This caused the actor to realize that he had hit rock bottom, resulting in him driving from California to New Jersey, where a warrant was out for his arrest. In the years that followed, Mewes struggled to get sober, however he finally got clean in 2010, and as of the time of this recording, a Jay and Silent Bob reboot is in the making. Coming in at number 2, Margot Kidder. Superman star Margot Kidder hid out in the bushes of a suburban California home back in the 90s. According to police, that is where they discovered her after she had been missing for 4 days back in April 1996. She was found dirty, frightened and paranoid paranoid with bruises and scratches on her body. Kidder was taken to a hospital for psychiatric evaluation, and according to The Independent, I quote, "At the time of her discovery, she was wearing disheveled, cast-off clothing and apparently cut off her own hair with a razor blade in an attempt to alter her appearance." Following the incident, Kidder later revealed she was suffering from manic depression and was working hard to better manage her disease. However, sadly on May 13th of 2018, Kidder passed away, taking her own life as a result of drug and alcohol poisoning. And finally coming in at number 1, Fan Bingbing. At one time, Fan Bingbing was one of China's highest paid stars, and was catapulted into the limelight when she starred in 2014's X-Men Days of Future Past. However, not long after her fame was growing in the West, media was reporting that the actress had suddenly disappeared without a trace. Rumours began to surface that the actress was using phony contracts to commit tax evasion, with the Global Times reporting that Bingbing reported an income of $1.5 million in small contracts and $7.6 million in a larger contract, which was illegally treated as tax-free income. The Chinese later announced that the actress was placed in a secret detention facility but was released after she agreed to pay $130 million in back taxes. Upon her re-emergence, she issued an apology on social media stating, "I am deeply ashamed and guilty about what I have done. My sincere apologies to you." I mean, for $130 million, the apology could have been a little better. That's all I'm saying.
Starting off our list at number 10 is Jennifer Lawrence. If you are a fan of the actress, then you might be wondering where she has been lately. She hasn't appeared as a lead in a film since 2018, and there was a time when she was appearing in most of them. Turns out she didn't disappear on purpose or have some epic plan to leave Hollywood, but her presence has not been made known and she hasn't been around much in the last few years. Even before the coronavirus pandemic started, Jennifer had been quarantining in her own little world, it seemed. Turns out she took some time off from acting and got married, which was completely private. She started dating her now husband, Cook Maroney, in 2018, and their wedding was on October 19th, 2019. The whole thing was kept as private as possible, and some would say her priorities were changed due to this new chapter in her life. But some good news, she is set to return to some movies next year. She signed on to a movie called Don't Look Up, which is now delayed until 2021, so it might just be her big comeback. Here's hoping, I really like her. Up next, number 9 is Macaulay Culkin. Probably one of the biggest examples of a celebrity disappearing from the Hollywood limelight. During the 90s, he was a child star that rose above the rest, and it seemed like his future in the industry was very bright. But he suddenly disappeared, and people were wondering what happened to the most famous kid on earth. In 1994, he had 3 big movies that year, and all of them bombed at the box office, which would definitely have an impact on a 14-year-old actor trying to make it big. He officially took his exit from the industry in 1995 during a difficult time in his personal life. His parents decided to separate, and they were facing a very vicious custody battle over Macaulay and his siblings. In the end, reports say his mother got full custody and he was estranged from his father ever since. We didn't see him in movies for many years, and anytime the paparazzi found him, the articles reported that he was struggling with a drug addiction. It wasn't until recent years that he has resurfaced and is taking on smaller projects but on his own terms. Swiping the number 8 spot is Meg Ryan. For a long time, she was known as America's sweetheart after taking over the 90s with her beauty and talent. After her first movie role in 1981, she kept getting job offers to a point where she had to drop out of college to focus on her film career. She was starring in some of the biggest rom-coms to this date, but then just disappeared in the early 2000s. Some people thought it may have to do with the scandal in which she was caught cheating on Dennis Quaid with Russell Crowe. Almost a decade after the scandal, she revealed that she was treated like the Scarlet Woman after that scandal happened, and revealed that Dennis had been dating other women too during their relationship. She also admitted that leaving Hollywood was actually a dream. During an interview, she said, "I have gotten what I guess I secretly wanted to do, be totally under the radar and live my life." Meg had no roles from 2009 to 2015, but in recent times you may see her in paparazzi photos around New York or some events because she will always be Meg Ryan. During her time away, she completely reconstructed her face though, so she may not be as recognizable as when you saw her last. Up next, number 7 is Jonathan Taylor Thomas, another heartthrob from the 90s who just disappeared from the industry randomly. He's mostly known for his role on the hit TV show Home Improvement, but he was winning over hearts ever since he performed the voice of young Simba in The Lion King. But when he reached his late teens, he quit Home Improvement, did a couple indie films, and then just vanished completely. A very bold move for someone who was just at the height of their career and probably had a long, successful beautiful one ahead of them. He is now 39 years old and hasn't walked a red carpet in over 15 years. So where did he go and what has he been up to? Turns out that he loved acting but hated the fame and attention being directed at his personal life. So he left and decided to focus on his studies instead. At 19 years old, he enrolled at Harvard University, where he spent 2 years studying philosophy and history. A few years ago though, he did make an appearance in Last Man Standing, where he was reunited with Tim Allen, who actually played his dad in Home Improvement. But he did it just for fun and says that he enjoys his life outside of Hollywood. Rolling into number 6 is Rachel Platten. The singer skyrocketed into fame with her hit single Fight Song. She grew a huge fan base rather quickly, and one fan even made it on The Ellen Show after she did an emotional cover to the song Fight Song. Her music career was gaining a ton of success, and she's even gone on some pretty epic tours. But in recent times, she's gone quiet and has not been putting out new music. She opened up about her reasoning in 2019, saying that after having a baby, she struggled with postpartum anxiety. She opened up about it in a lengthy Instagram post where she said that even when she was on tour, she was crying in bathrooms some days because the anxiety was so difficult. So once the tour was done, she poured her heart and soul into being a new mom and less on the Hollywood life as a singer. But she did recently pop up on TikTok and said that she's creating new music and is hoping to be back into it soon. Halfway through the list, at number 5 is Cameron Diaz. Back in 2014, she was one of the most sought out female celebrities in the game. She was appearing in tons of magazines and taking the lead in comedy rom-coms. But then she suddenly disappeared from the limelight and was no longer showing up on our screens. It wasn't until 2018 when she admitted to Entertainment Weekly that she had officially retired from acting. Fans were shocked at first, but later found out that she went on to have a more quiet family life. She got married to Benji Madden and they had a little girl, so her attention and priorities completely switched, as it would for a lot of new mothers. Reports say that having a baby was one of the main reasons why she left Hollywood. Reports claim that they were trying to get pregnant for a while and nothing was working. But fans did get a nice surprise recently when she did a Skype interview with Jimmy Fallon where she talked about being a mom and what she is up to these days. Taking over the number 4 spot is Jack Gleeson. The young actor played King Joffrey in the hit TV series Game of Thrones, but then announced he would be retiring after its 4th season. Despite being just a teenager when he started the show, he has hinted at retirement on more than one occasion. But in 2019, it became official. He spoke with Entertainment Weekly and said that he's been acting since he was 8 years old and doesn't enjoy it anymore like he used to. He said, "Up until now, acting was always something I did for recreation with my friends or in the summer for some fun. I enjoyed it. When you make a living from something, it changes your relationship with it. It's not like I hate it, it's just not what I want to do." After he left, he moved back home to his family and joined a Dublin-based theatre company called Collapsing Horse. So he's still acting in some way. Making her way into number 3 is Mara Wilson. If you watched the movie Matilda when you were a kid, then you quickly fell in love with the title character and hoped that she would be your friend and teach you all of her cool magic tricks. The movie is a cult classic, and the actress behind the iconic character, Mara Wilson, had a very successful career lined up for her. But just a few years after the movie was released, Mara decided to quit the biz. Many people couldn't understand her decision and reasoning, so down the road she wrote a book called Where Am I Now? The Stories of Girlhood and Accidental Fame. After leaving Hollywood and growing her personal life, she found a passion for writing and started writing her own novels. She now lives a very normal life, but said that sometimes she will act in smaller projects with her friends. In spot number 2 is Freddie Prinze Jr. The actor was popping up in movies all over the place between 1998 to 2003, but then just disappeared without much reasoning for it. He did try to make big comebacks, but his last big screen appearance was in 2008. He was a huge heartthrob in the 90s and won multiple Teen Choice Awards for his roles. But it seemed like his career had lost some momentum, and he ended up trading in his movie career for a family. He married actress Sarah Michelle Gellar, who also retired from Hollywood, and now they have 2 children together and have changed their career paths. When asked if he would return to acting, he said, "I love being a full-time father. To remove myself from that equation would not be a good thing. I'm basically retired." After acting, he turned his focus on cooking and now has his own cookbooks, which I thought was very random. We have made it to number 1, and we have Amanda Bynes. She had everything she needed as a young star to climb to the top. She seemed passionate about her work and was determined to keep her success going. Fans absolutely adored her in every role that she took on. But then everything sort of took a turn and fans no longer saw her on their screens. Articles started surfacing showing she had been struggling with substance abuse and was getting in trouble with the law, being arrested for DUIs and other minor crimes. She was in and out of treatment center for years and fans were hoping that she would find her way back. But her struggles actually go deeper than just drugs. Reports say that she struggles with mental illness and has been trying to find treatments for it. In recent years, she's been able to turn her life around, working hard to get an education. She recently received a degree in fashion after studying at the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising in Los Angeles, and her lawyer said that she's thinking about creating her own clothing and perfume line.
Starting off at number 10, we have Rick Moranis. Rick was a major comedy star in the 80s, best known for starring in the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids franchise. However, he decided to leave Hollywood in 1991 because his wife Anne sadly died of cancer. He was left as a single father to 2 children and put acting on the back burner to raise his kids. After filming 1997's Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, Rick officially left Hollywood to focus on raising his kids full time. He has voice acted in a handful of roles since, but he's mostly stayed off screen. But it looks like his hiatus might be coming to an end soon, as there are talks to add another installment to the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids franchise. The film is called Shrunk, with Josh Gad playing his son, and it's currently in pre-production on IMDb, so I'm sure we're going to be seeing it soon. Also, make sure to like the video if you're liking it so far. In at number 9, Kris Humphries. Kris Humphries was a professional basketball star and briefly a reality TV star when he was married to Kim Kardashian. The Minneapolis-born athlete played for 9 different professional teams during his career, and he was a pretty low-key player in the league, of course, until the Kardashians got involved. And he became one of the top stars in the tabloids, with the Kardashian affiliation even getting him heckled on court. The pair got married, then divorced 72 days later, which of course didn't help the media circus. Kris ended up retiring from the NBA, and he moved back home and started franchising fast casual restaurants. And he's remained out of the spotlight ever since. In at number 8, Audrey Hepburn. Audrey Hepburn is of course the legendary old Hollywood actress known for Breakfast at Tiffany's, along with many other iconic films. Her style also influenced the fashion trends of the next few decades. And even though she was a massive star, many people forget that she retired just a few years after her career peaked. During her acting days, Hepburn worked with UNICEF, crediting them with assisting her as a child in the war-torn Netherlands. Then when she retired in 1988, she became an official ambassador, and she used her fame to help people and bring attention to charities and human rights issues. In at number 7, Jamie Lynn Spears. Jamie Lynn Spears is best known for her role as Zoe in the hit show Zoe 101, but she left her career in the height of her fame to become a mother, as she became pregnant shortly after she stopped filming the show at the age of 16. She walked away from fame in an attempt to escape the scrutiny, and years later she shared her thought process at the time with Glamour. She said, quote, "I just wanted to get away from it as much as I could, to just go away and be a mom and figure out what I wanted, and to earn a sense of respect back for myself. Move to a town in the middle of nowhere and just raise my child. All I could be was a good mother." She's now married with 2 children and has not been in the spotlight since. And at number 6, Frankie Muniz. Please tell me I'm not the only one that had a huge crush on Frankie Muniz when they were growing up, hopefully not just me. Frankie Muniz was a tween star best known for Malcolm in the Middle, but after he became mega famous as a teenager, he decided to leave acting to pursue another career. He ended up becoming a race car driver, and he had a lot of success too. In 2006, he joined Jensen Motorsport as a race car driver, and according to People, he competed in the Champ Car World Series. He also made his way to the highly televised Las Vegas Grand Prix. Frankie has said that he would go back to acting for Malcolm in the Middle reboot, and he did star in a few seasons of Dancing with the Stars. But he's mostly stayed away from the spotlight since his tween stardom. Halfway number 5, Dylan Sprouse. After becoming Disney stars, Cole and his brother Dylan stepped away from the spotlight. However, Cole decided to return and is now one of the stars of the hit show Riverdale. Dylan has decided to stay out of acting and decided to attend college. He attended NYU from 2011 to 2015, where he studied video game design. Then after started All Wise Meadery. In an interview with Vanity Fair in 2018, Dylan stated, quote, "After graduating, I realized that it's something I really love doing, and it's also a big business opportunity. I was thinking about ways to invest my money, and I thought, well, if there's anything to invest your money in, alcohol is not a bad thing to invest in." Dylan has started a handful of indie short films since, but we don't expect him to come back into the spotlight anytime soon. And at number 4, Nikki Blonsky. Nikki Blonsky's rise to stardom is such a crazy story it could be the plot of a movie. In 2007, she was scooping ice cream at Cold Stone Creamery when she learned that she'd been cast in the role of Tracy Turnblad in the cinematic reboot of Hairspray, after applying to an open casting call. But after the breakout role, her career took a dive. Over the years, as Blonsky's acting roles have become fewer and farther between, rumors have circulated from time to time about what she does to make money. Some photos went viral of her sweeping up at a hair salon, which prompted her to respond on Twitter saying, quote, "It's true, I'm working at Superstar Salon as a makeup artist. And more, I am proud to be working and helping pay bills, but I'll never lose sight of my dream." So it seems like she's still working towards her dreams, but for now, she's out of the spotlight. And at number 3, Kevin Jonas. Kevin Jonas is of course the older brother of the Jonas Brothers. But although Kevin Jonas rose to stardom during his time as a performer with his brothers, after the band broke up in 2013, Jonas focused on creating apps and other business ventures with his fortune from his Jobo days. He created an app called You'd, which showed nearby restaurants serving the type of food that you picked from a menu. He also started Jonas Warner, a real estate development and construction company that he established soon after the breakup of the band. In addition, Kevin is the co-CEO of The Blue Market. It's a business venture mainly focused on communication and pushing them to be actively visible in social media and gain a following. And although it seems that Kevin would prefer a life away from the spotlight, the band is such a staple in the hearts of young people everywhere, including myself. The band has gotten back together and recently made music. So it seems that Kevin's back in the spotlight for now, but not sure if that could change again in the future. And at number 2, George Clooney. George Clooney has slowly started to drift away from acting, and that's on purpose. The star's opened up in the past about his thoughts of quitting acting for good, and he's spoken about the fact that he doesn't like fame, saying in an interview, quote, "What's the guy in the big house on the hill got to complain about? The truth is the big house on the hill is isolating. There's no other way to say it. There are restrictions to this kind of fame. I haven't walked in Central Park for 15 years. I'd like to, you know?" Then in 2017, he said that he was seriously thinking of quitting acting, saying, quote, "Look, I acted for a long time and I'm 56. I'm not the guy that gets the girl anymore." He also added that he no longer needs to act to make money, as he sold his tequila company Casamigos for $1 billion. At the time, he had not acted in a movie since 2016, however, he did star in the 2020 film Midnight Sky, but that could potentially be his last movie. And at number 1, Taylor Momsen. Gossip Girl character and former child star Taylor Momsen began her transition out of Hollywood while she was still a series regular on the CW's teen soap Gossip Girl, which explains why Momsen looks so different at the end compared to the start of the show. Taylor formally announced that she had quit acting in 2011 to focus on her punk rock career with her band The Pretty Reckless. 9 years later, in 2020, The Pretty Reckless are still rocking on and preparing for a release of their 4th album. True to her word, Taylor has not returned to acting in any capacity. Momsen told the Daily Beast in 2014, quote, "When I got to a place where I realized I was in control of my own life and had found the right band and everything was coming to fruition, it wasn't even a question. I was going to quit my day job. I came to set every day with an effing guitar. But I'm very lucky the producers were nice enough to write me out, allow me to tour and pursue my passion." And honestly, good for her for chasing her dreams.